My name's Christian Saylor, and I'm joined by Francis Eden back on the mics. Food Fight Cast is jumping on Sunday, March 3rd, to recap HEX Fight Series 29. How are you, Frankie?
Yeah, not too bad, bro. A bit deflated after last night, but that's all right. I mean, Harry brought it home with a bit of positive energy towards the end of the card. But yeah, no, it's good, man.
Yeah. I mean, look, what a way to cap off a card there, and he's just continuing to make waves in Australian MMA, and you gotta think that he's definitely on the UFC's radar at this point. I mean, if he's not on their radar, someone else might snatch him up. So I'm sure he is progressing there. I'm sure there's maybe some eyes on him in the matchmakers at the UFC. But yeah, let's talk about the event first. So we went to the last event, HEX Fight Series 28 at Festival Hall, which was amazing. Great production. The arena was laid out really well. Everyone in the arena had a good seat, which I think is one of the most important aspects of comparison that I want to make to Melbourne Pavilion last night. What do you think, mate?
Yeah, I think that's kind of probably was the biggest thing when we got there. It was like there was a bad seat. Like there was a potential to have a bad seat, and at the last joint there wasn't. I think it's because, when stadiums are built, right, like, or venues that are meant for focusing on a thing, it's like they build it in mind with, let's try to make at least most of these seats be decent, right? Even the bad seats are at least decent for viewing. Last night, I felt like we were at a soccer trophy presentation hall where there's like 6 different rooms and like mezzanines and weird shit and poles and stuff in between everything. And they just put an octagon in the middle of it without really thinking. Yeah. The whole general area was just one level. So like we were in the second row, which, isn't really that bad if you think about it, as far as we were just behind the VIP section. But if you were a few rows back, man, you wouldn't be able to see shit.
Yeah. I mean, we had a constant problem with people standing practically in front of us at a few points, and
yeah,
look, and I get it. Like a lot of the fans in general admission, they are close to someone that's fighting, so they want to get up there and have a look. But it did absolutely feel like whoever decided to put the layout together of seating was playing Tetris on a time limit. Like they were just shoving things together. We turned around at the start once we had gotten in there, and so many people were just standing up at the back. There was only one screen if you were sort of central, if you were ringside, if you were at the front of GA. There was only the one screen, which was all the way in the corner behind one section of the cage. So if you at some point needed to see what was going on the ground, or if you just couldn't see what was happening in the cage, that was your best bet. I was like weaving left and right with the big ball fuck that was in front of me.
Yeah.
And, I couldn't get past him half the time. The other problem was the boom arm. There was a boom arm they were using to get footage above the cage, and that kept cutting off the TV, the screen that was there. It felt like GA was very much an afterthought.
Yeah, it was the camera jib. It was like, and that's something that just keeps constantly moving as well. So it's like it's blocking, and the screen wasn't big. Like for the whole venue, it was just this one thing, and it was like tucked behind the mezzanine. Yeah, it was rubbish. But I think the problem is that, like you said, we went to the last one. The last one I felt was such a home run, as far as like it was almost better than some UFC events we've been to, as far as an experience. Like obviously UFC is on a completely different scale, but as far as going to an event and watching fights, it's like I remember thinking this was a home run as far as a regional event goes, and it's about as good as you can get. So it seemed really weird that they changed the formula when they had it so good before.
Yeah, I'd love to know what the reasoning behind that was. Maybe Festival Hall was booked on this night, and they needed the event to take place, and this was the date that everybody could do. I'm not entirely sure, but Festival Hall is miles apart, miles ahead from hosting an MMA event than Melbourne Pavilion. You had the GA up top. You had the sort of GA all around the arena. You had like 5 screens facing each side of the cage, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Way more room to move. Yeah, was completely different experience. And it's a shame because they did such a good job building this card. They had the press conference the other day, which I thought was ran quite well. Had good section of journalists, good questions, professionally shot. I was thinking, we're in for a good card here. And look, for the most part, the card was fun. Like there was some good fights. It started off a little bit slow, but it started to pick up as we got into the, later section of the card. And let's get into maybe the top two fights there. We'll kick it off with Jono Mica, the captain, against Aldin Bates there in the co-main event for the HEX Welterweight Championship. What were your thoughts on that one?
Well, we kind of said the same thing when they came out, right? Like it was like, if this guy can go, Bates, that is, if Bates can go 5 rounds, like with the way that he was outputting in the first and the way, his frame kind of lined up with Jono, like it was like, dude, this is a big guy who's obviously controlling him pretty easily. If he can do this for 5 rounds, like it was a shutout from the first round, really. And Jono just really couldn't seem to get a start. Like the guy, he sort of dictated the pace of the fight, which was something that I think Jono usually, he's the one who likes to kind of drag people into the deep water and make it happen. But yeah, I reckon I struggled to give Jono 1 round before the finish. The finish was sort of, I guess you could say that might have been early. It was, considering it was the first time he'd been dropped in the fight, I reckon it was maybe a 50-50 call at best. Considering it was a title fight as well. He was probably down 3-1 rounds when he got dropped. So not that you really factor that stuff in, but, if it's a close fight and it's the first time you get dropped and it's late in the fight, it's like maybe you let it go a little bit longer. But, mouth guard goes flying, eyes go back, and he has all the signs of someone who's out. It's like maybe it was an okay stop in my eyes.
Yeah, it wasn't like, for me, it wasn't the first time he kind of got clipped, but every time he got clipped, he shot into a takedown. He tried to grab a leg, he tried to scramble. That shot, yes, he did kind of lose his mouth guard, but what bummed me out a bit was I just thought the ref just went straight in before Jono had hit the ground and kind of overreacted. Didn't like get a sense of how Jono was taking that shot, because Jono actually did sprawl for a leg as well in that stoppage. So for me, it could have gone on a little bit longer. We could have seen, is Jono going to scramble here? Is he going to get a hold of him, or is he going to be out on his back there? But, to give Aldin Bates all the credit, 37 years old, guy's built like a brick shit house. Like he really did take it to Jono and really put the pace on him. Seemed to be very strong in the, grappling exchanges, in the clinch. Seemed to really be putting a high volume of strikes there, and he really earned that win. So I guess take my hat off to him. Obviously, he got a soft spot for Jono, having spoken to him with you not too long ago. I'm sure he'll bounce back though. Like that's his first loss as a pro. He's 5-1. Plenty of room to improve. I'm sure he'll bounce back strong.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the like we'll get into Harry as well, but you look at Jono's record, right? Like he kind of tricks you. He's one of those guys that tricks you into being like, you watch him fight, like in his last fight, right? And you forget that it's like, dude, he's only had 5 fights, like pro fights. Like he looked like a veteran. So to see something like this happen this early in his career, you got to remember it's like, dude, this is when you're supposed to lose. This is how you get better, right? Like you take a loss like this and you'll move it on to he'll win the next 3 convincingly because he lost here. Like I'm not saying that's going to exactly happen, but you see the template how these things go. Like guys like Jono, they look dominant. They come up against someone who's not so much a veteran, but someone obviously had a bit more experience, is a bit older. He's going to handle these situations better next time, 100%. And I think he's going to be better for it, man. Like what a loss does in someone's career early, that's what it does for him, man. It makes him better for it in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Jack Della, he lost his first 2, I believe, and he's been on a tear ever since. So, you might as well get these licks while you can before you get to the big show. So Jono can regroup. He's young. He's athletic. He doesn't seem injured or anything. So he'll keep going.
More importantly, man, he's got I feel like he's got that head on his shoulders as well, where he's like, he won't let this get him down. He'll go, yes, I'm going to get back in the gym as soon as I can. I'm going to get he's going to be pumped to want to win again. And that's why people want to watch him fight. That's why we wanted to watch him fight. And, it's almost just as an important trait in a fighter to have that bounce back mentality as well. So All the greats have it.
Absolutely. I got the sense that he's just that kind of guy that he is going to use this and just relook at, what he did wrong. Like he'll wear it. He won't beat himself up about it. He'll go back to the gym. He'll reevaluate. He'll get better. He's got a real good support network around him. He's got great family. He's one of 9 siblings. He's married young to his love of his life. He's not going to get down in the dumps. He's not going to fall by the wayside. He'll just be straight back in the training, in the gym, and he'll just get better.
Yeah, that's it, man.
Nice. All right, so we move on to the main event with Harry the Human Highlight Wheel Webb. I always screw that up.
The Human Highlight Wheel.
Bit of a tongue twister there, Harry, but put on a great performance against Abdallah Biata after a bit of adversity early in that first round for the HEX Vacant Lightweight Championship, and amazing, really, really incredible performance. What was your take on that, Frank?
Yeah, I think, look, going into it, let's be completely honest. I said going against a guy like Biata, he has the frame of the best MMA fighters. He's out of the box. He's tall, he's lanky, he's rangy, and he's got good striking. So, and he had the experience on Harry too, 9-1. Harry was 3-0 before going into this. Even Harry said it himself, man. It's is this a bit of a jump for him? Obviously, it wasn't because of the outcome, but I think that closeness at the start of the fight was really just Harry figuring out that range, trying to close the distance, trying to get the reads on this guy sort of thing. And that's where I thought the closeness came into it. I don't really think it would have been a close fight other than going, hey, let me figure out this weird frame of a dude that's, stylistically a little bit difficult for me, being a shorter guy getting in, which anyone who's going to be going up against a guy like this at lightweight is going to be difficult, right? So I think that closeness was maybe just him in a bit of a figuring out phase. And as soon as he saw, he said, I listened to an interview afterwards with him where he said, I heard the clappers go, and he knew from earlier in the fight, he knew he was going to come in. He was like, I know he's going to push the pace here in the last 10 seconds because of the last few minutes. That's how he's been doing it. He's been doing it in bursts. And he's like, if he comes in at the last 10 seconds here, if he tries to be aggressive, I'm going to open up over the top. And that's kind of exactly what happened, man. So it just goes to show you, Harry, even being so young, man, having that IQ to be able to read that and go up against, the number 1 ranked featherweight in the Australian pound for pound rankings, and be able to do that to him and floor him like he's never been floored. It's fucking impressive, man.
Yeah. I mean, you look at the guys at the top in the UFC that hold belts for a long time, and one thing that I think is really consistent with them, guys like Volk, guys like Izzy, is their ability to download in fight and adjust and make adjustments and then take over. And Harry has done that. If you think back to that Eternal fight, where, I think he dropped around, there was a bit of adversity there. He just started pushing the pace. He started throwing more volume, started landing a mixture of different shots and mixed in the wrestling. If you look at this fight, he might have been caught on, outside of range or stepping in. He might have got caught by Abdallah and kind of got put, his knees wobbled a bit, but he adjusted. He started to, use different combos. He started to get in Abdallah's face a bit more. And he just wears his shots really well. He rolls with them. He doesn't kind of get surprised by them, and he doesn't freak out. He just holds his composure. I think big testament to that gym and John Campbell. They've got a real prospect on their hands here that can just burst into the UFC. I want to see him fight in the UFC next. I don't really want this to kind of drag out. I know he's only, 24 years old at this point. I know he's young, but capitalize. He is in his absolute prime. There are guys in the UFC that are worse, opponents than he's facing now. He can go in and they can give him a good matchup, and he can continue to get that experience in the UFC. I don't see a problem with it. Maybe he can go via the Contender Series route. I don't know, but it's also a good way to build his brand and get known before he jumps into the UFC.
Yeah.
Jack Della did the same thing. Let's just do it. Let's just get in there.
Yeah, I kind of see it it's topical because he fought this morning, but the Steve Erceg route, right? He came in and he had his back against the wall numbers wise as far as like the line. Like he was, I think his first fight and second fight, he was unders in both of them, and he pulled out decision wins, but they were gritty decision wins where it was like, okay, I'm sort of learning on the fly, like while I'm at the apex, and you know these glorified sort of contendery sort of moments that are kind of like last night. Like if he's a pro and he's fighting guys of similar caliber, I'm sort of with you in that you've seen guys that are 4-0 get signed. 100% you've seen that. It's usually at the heavier weight classes because the divisions are so thin, right? So at lightweight, I can see why they'd be like, look, come back when you're like 7-8, maybe, and like, and I can completely see that happening as well, purely because it's at lightweight. The difference is with someone like Harry is that he has that thing that obviously Hex saw, because even he was shocked, dude. They were like, yeah, you're going to be in a main event and you're going to be fighting for the title and you're 3-0. Even Harry was like, what? Like, that's crazy, dude. And he goes out and knocks out the guy in the first round. It's like, okay, let's throw the rule book out the window for a minute and say, look, this guy, we're not gonna burn the bridge too soon by throwing him into the UFC. I think you can give him an unranked guy on an Apex card or a contender series fight. I think a contender series fight could be great as well. Something like that, one of those two options would be great for him. I also wouldn't be mad if he had another defense in HEX as well. He spoke about wanting to go to New Zealand, or there's another card that's coming up in June as well. So I think the beauty of the takeaway from last night for him is it's like you put on the perfect performance. You knocked out the dude in the first round. You took very, very minimal damage, and then the sky's the limit. Like, we've just laid out all these different options. All of them are good. Like, last night was a success for Harry, man.
Absolutely. I think the key thing here is I just don't want to see him wait for the UFC shot. Obviously, like if they're speaking to him, if they're saying he's ready, if they're saying we've got a contender series fight, take it. But if they're taking their sweet ass time, stay busy. Absolutely. Get on the next HEX card, defend this belt, keep active, to keep doing what you're doing, which is making you great. And that's fighting like 4 times a year, like he did in the last 12 months. Like I think 12 months ago, he was an amateur and debuting as a pro. And look what he's done. He's had 4 fights now, and undefeated, all beautiful finishes. Like, this guy is just continuing to get better. He's got kind of everything you want in an MMA fighter. Like, we've seen him on the ground, we've seen him scramble. He's got power. His fight IQ, I can't stop talking about that. Like, he just reminds me of a guy like Volk that downloads. His defense is always there. He's not scared to get hit. Like, he's got his chin tucked. He goes forward, and if he gets hit, he's giving something back that's much times worse than what he's copying. He's always dishing it out way more than he's copying it.
Yeah, that's true. But so Bo Nickel, right? What was Bo Nickel when he fought on the contender series? He might have been 2-0 or 3-0 or something.
1-0, right? I believe.
Right?
It was something ridiculous. And they gave him 2 contender series fights. So, like, give Harry 2. I don't care. I'd rather he does 2 contender series fights than keeps fighting in HEX, because the problem here is like he could keep fighting in HEX, and most likely he continues to win, because I just think he's that good. But the risk here is that he gets into a fight in HEX. Maybe he drops one, maybe he gets injured, and then he's
loses a decision or some
loses a bit of momentum, and he's by the wayside. I'd rather just let's get his name out there, get him in the contender series, have a fight there, and just continue to build off that, because we don't have enough fighters in ANZ that are in the UFC. Like, we just saw Tyson Pedro retire today in the freaking Apex, which was ridiculous. Like, more cards are coming to Australia. We need guys like Harry on them. Like, he's ready. You can see it as well in interviews. He's not scared of the spotlight. He's happy to do interviews, and he speaks so well. He says all the right things. His fan base has to be growing. He's getting harder and harder to reach. Like, he's right there. He's on the precipice of greatness, really. Yeah.
So from the Chris Minns, the interviews and stuff that he did last week, with the deal that he did with the UFC, I think that they said they had 3 or 4 events over the next 5 years, and we've already had 1. So there's another 3 events over the next 4 years or something, right? Probably means, I think from the schedule lineup, there's probably going to be an Australia event towards the end of this year. I would think that would be on his radar. Like, because of the local talent they usually do with the Australian cards, even debuting guys, like, man, I remember there's been some Australian cards where they've just like half the card is debuting and they're just Australian local talent. So I think that should be something that he's eyeing off, like, or his management or someone needs to be putting the word out. I'm sure that Sean is going to be, keeping an eye on this. Sean Shelby is like, he knows Harry's name. There's no doubt that he doesn't, because when you're talking about talent from this region, not only he ticks all the boxes, dude. Like, it's at the end of the day, the UFC is a business and they're looking for product that can sell the business better. And neither of us, we saw it from the first time we saw him fight, man. No one says product better than Harry right now. Like, he's hot property, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, sky's the limit. Like, he seems to have the right people around him. John Campbell seems to really be a good mentor, coach for him. We've spoken to him a couple of times, both on the podcast and kind of like offline a little bit. And, he's looking out for he's aware of what minefields could come up. He's aware of keeping good people around him. There's a lot of agencies that are talking to him that he's kind of keeping at bay. He's obviously trying to keep things simple until they make sense to look at the big picture. So I think he stays active. If that Australian card is at the end of the year, he gets a defence, maybe he gets a couple more fights before that, and then he plans towards that. So, good to see him continuing to shine, continuing to grow. Like, he's right at that, like, sort of 24, 25-year-old, right in his prime now. Like, the next few years is everything.
Yeah. Well, just jumping back to Jono, like the guys that were sitting in front of us who were teammates with Jono, they said that if he had got that win last night, it would have been, UFC bound. That was his sixth fight, his sixth pro fight, right? So it would have been his first title defense. Harry's not far off exactly those numbers, like, at all. Like, he's 4-0 now. Next fight, he'll be 5-0, exactly where Jono was when he was offered a title shot. So maybe it is only, it's not that crazy. It's not that far-fetched to think that maybe in the next couple he could be in that conversation.
Yeah, and I think the reason we see guys going to the UFC and they have like 9+ fights, 9 pro fights, you see more like that 12-3 sort of record getting in there, is because the talent hasn't been as good as it is now. Like, these guys that are like 24 years old now, the talent is just so good across ANZ, like the topper echelon. So the risk here is, like, Harry fights some unknown prospect that's unreal. Like it's just it's more and more athletes, there's more and more like people that just the talent is just it's a higher level at this point. So I'd rather see him just get in there sooner than later and just start fighting with guys that are kind of they're vets. They're either on their way out, they're unranked. Like, he's so much better than half that roster, if not sort of at that upper echelon. He'll prove himself.
Yeah. Well, man, all in all, like, I think we said it when we left the event, is that it would have been a sick card if it wasn't for the shit venue and like the experience of actually being there. Like, I'll just touch on one more thing just before we wrap up this hate session for HEX at the moment, because we are big fans of it. We do like the regional stuff and we want them to do well. Crowd control, hiring social media people to come fill chicks to fill VIP tables. Like, where's the security guard blocking? Like, I'm not a stickler for this shit, but it's fucking annoying, though. Like, when there's like a fire exit that's next to us and there's 9 people clogged in front of it, we can't even get to our seats. Like, I think next time they just need, like, the product that they've got is great. It's like, just put a better bow on it, man. Put it in a better box. Like, that's all you got to do. And I think they know.
The biggest problem was the venue. Like, let's be real. It wasn't catering to managing the number of people that were in that general admissions section. Like, there was just rows and rows all the way back. Like you said, it was like an RSL. It was like we were at RSL in Sydney that myself and Michael fought on. Like, it was just rows and rows back all the way. Everyone's standing up, and security didn't seem to care that people were standing and kind of jumping over each other.
Anyway,
it's all good. It's all good. I'm sure they'll be fine. Like they just got to pick a better venue, and they've got it sorted. They've got a great promoter. They've got great, production value. Everything's good about it. Just a little banana peel. I'm sure. Sitting in the VIP section might have been better. I did like seeing that overhanging section that was looking into the cage. That would have been a lovely spot to be. But
for sure.
Onwards to the next event.
That's it, bro.
And Yeah, sounds good. All right. Well, good to chat, mate. I'll talk to you soon.
No worries, brother. Catch up.